Econolair to develop the guidelines, and a homeowner infographic as well. So they were developed in consultation with the Ministry of Planning, Agriculture, Housing, Infrastructure, Transport and Development, along with the Department of Planning, Caribbean Utilities Company, the Cayman Society of Architects, Surveyors and Engineers, and the Cayman Contractors Association. And now we wish to share them with you, the key stakeholders in the field, who can provide valuable insight into the achievability of these guidelines. It is part of the implementation of the National Energy Policy. And just as an update, the government has made energy efficient construction materials duty-free. This includes spray foam insulation, foam sheets, low E film, smart thermostats, and home energy monitors. And we're trying to work to see if we can get energy efficient air conditioners duty-free as well. The ministry also has the My Resilient Home Guide, which speaks to energy efficiency and native trees and other useful tips on the website. So we recently did a program where we retrofitted residential buildings and public sector buildings, and we've seen the big drop in energy consumption. And so we've developed the guidelines to help us with getting the message out there of what tips and tricks to use. We took the information and used our technical consultant to develop the guidelines. And we hope that when you start to implement these practices, you will share with us what works, what doesn't work, cost differences, positive and negative impacts, so that we can really build on our knowledge and how we can help our residents to reduce their energy consumption and therefore their utility bills. So thank you for joining us. We will be making this a recording available online, and we'll also be providing certificates of attendance. Therefore, please make sure that your full name is shown in this session. I now hand you over to Econolair, the energy consulting firm from Canada. They have been working with us for several months. They actually conducted the energy audits for us and the training session that we did with government facility managers. And they visited last year to meet with several stakeholders, and they're now online to take you through the guidelines. So I pass it back over to Stephanie.
Thank you, Kristen. So I have actually launched a poll just so we can know who attended the last week training. Just we don't want to repeat ourselves, but at the same time, if some of you have not participated, well, maybe we can provide a bit more background. So the Econolair team that will be conducting this training here will be, well, myself, the team leader. I'm a mechanical engineer by training and been working in energy efficiency for the last 26 years. And my colleague, Miton, who's a senior advisor, specialist in energy efficiency building codes, standards, and labels. For more than 30 years, will be conducting half of the training, and the other half will be conducted by Alex Garot, who you might have met in Cayman Island. He was the lucky one, and who's an energy efficiency expert here also at Econolair. So it's the team of the three of us that prepared the guidelines for the residential construction. So last week we started this training, and we'll present the rest today. We will use example and case studies that reflect local conditions from the Cayman Island. Don't hesitate to ask questions either in the chat or by raising your hand. So I may ask Andre actually to lower his hand so we can see the next questions. And you can stop and ask us if you have any questions along the way. So we'll present some key principles, standards, technologies that contribute to energy efficient, sustainable building design. But this week we'll especially focus on regulation and labeling. So last week we really focused on the building, so how to construct, to orient housing, so using energy efficient materials, but also HVAC system installation, fenestration, and some renewable energy solutions. And also we presented the CARICOM Regional Energy Efficiency Building Code. While this week, we will really focus on what we call MEPS, or Minimum Energy Performance Standards, and labels that communicate information on the energy performance, and also how to use this information to better inform customers so they can buy more efficient equipment. So we're more at the stage of selecting the right equipment to be included in residential buildings once this residential building has been properly built, and also is using the most efficient materials, and also operation settings. So a couple of things to keep in mind. Don't worry, we will be sharing the presentation, the PowerPoint, and the recording. It will all be available on the ministry's website. You can also access already the guidelines, and also the homeowner infographics that was also prepared through this consultation. So here's the ministry's website, and here are the link to energy efficiency guidelines here, and also the energy efficiency infographic, which is actually meant for homeowners, but that can also be used by anyone to demonstrate how a house should be built, but also should be operated, and which equipment should be selected. So it's very visual, easy to understand, and also provide in numbers that can provide incentives to insulate the roof, for example, and change air conditioner to save on the electricity bills. So this is already accessible, and the trainings should also be accessible on that website. So let me get back to the presentation. Sorry, up. There we go. We will have a post-training evaluation form at the end to tell us how we did, and if the training was useful for you. I have launched the poll already, so I don't know if people have filled it, just so we can know who. I don't know if you can see the poll. Can
Just so
someone
you know, the poll is in the chat in case people aren't aware. You have to select the chat feature.
Okay, it's in the chat, and I can. Oh yeah, there's 16 people who have answered already. Up to now, the proportion is more or less 65-35 on people who have attended, 65%, going down 60% now, and 40% who have not attended. So now, if we're speaking about something that you have no idea what we're referring to, just stop us, raise your hand, and now we'll answer the question. Yeah, because it's going down. Every person who's answering now, it's a no, almost. So we're at 60-40 more or less. So this week we'll focus on energy efficiency standard and labels for appliances, for lighting, for everything that it uses energy in a house. So of course we'll focus a lot on air conditioning systems, since it's the most energy intensive appliance in the house, but everything else also consumes energy. So we'll also talk about customer service and how to speak energy efficiency to customers, especially for all the retailers that are in the room. And we'll have some case studies, Q&A, and wrap up at the end. So the first poll was about if you attended. So I have only 22 people who answered out of 44. So those that have not answered yet, it could be useful. But yeah, we see a proportion of 60-40. And I will launch the second poll, because we'd like to know your background as well. So you can answer the second poll, which is what's your primary role in the residential construction industry? So you can choose only one. So project developer, builder, architect, material technology supplier. So if you're a retailer, that's where you fit. Government or utility. So please complete the poll as well. So just so we know, we have an idea of what's your background. So so we can see. Wow. So we have a lot of for the moment we have a lot of architects and designer, and of course people from the government. So I think from now I'll just pass it on to my colleague Me, who will start the session on energy efficiency standards and also labels. And we'll show several examples and also the past experience from United States and other countries and how it has affected the level of efficiency of those appliances. So passing on to you, Me. Thank you. Do you want to show your screens just so you can
I think you need to
manage the presentation
there you go.
yourself.
Okay,
Thanks.
there we go. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I see that Chandel has joined us as well. Chandel, thank you for joining us, and he was one of the key reviewer and commenters in our work, and we'll really appreciate his input. So I'm really glad to see him and his team coming back. We didn't bore him to death last time, so that's good. And many of you also came back, so it's also a good sign. And a welcome to all of you who did not attend last week. So we're hoping to provide some useful information for you today. So this morning I'll start really quickly with just an overview of what it's called standards and labeling, energy efficiency standards and labeling. It's a policy, energy policy that's been proven globally to save energy. And it's an approach called the minimum energy performance standards. And basically it's, there's two different approaches, two sides of the same coin. One is the minimum energy efficiency standard, and that's governments use regulations to establish a minimum level of energy efficiency of an appliance. So basically, at some point, the government will say, anything that is performing below this line, they draw an arbitrary line through, some scientific establishment, and anything that is below a certain line cannot be sold in the market. So, for example, you've seen cars with, miles per gallon. The government might decide to say that anything that's below 10 miles per gallon shouldn't be sold. That's an example. And then there's the energy efficiency product labeling, which provides basically the information at the consumer level, at the purchasing level, where consumers will walk into a store and you see 10 refrigerators or whatever, and one of them or more than one would have some sort of label indicating their energy performance, and that's intended to help consumers make good choices because they need the right information to be able to do that. So as I said, there's a nice graph of how these things work. So minimum energy performance standards that they focus on setting a floor of the market. So you see here where this blue line is, that there's a typical distribution of energy efficient product in the market. You have some inefficient ones, some really efficient ones, and most of them are spread in the middle. But if you use standard and put regulations to say certain inefficient ones cannot be sold, you increase the efficiency of the product in the market at the beginning, and then as time go on, products improve. And then the green line, the label focuses on pooling the market. So instead of leaving everything in the average, the labels actually pool, or push, however, but it moves product over the average line. So it helps consumers choose products that are better than average. So that together they tend to work quite well. It's an established policy that many governments have used, and from the EU to the US, and it's that there are now, I think, minimum energy performance standards for over 100 types of products all over the world, and many, like 80 or 90 countries are using this method. So why are they and as I said, the government choose to use these because it improves energy efficiency. It also increases consumer awareness. It helps consumer make better purchasing decision, while at the same time taking energy inefficient equipment off the market. And governments do this because it improves the environment. They reduce greenhouse gas emission, lower environmental impact. If you use diesel generation, you also improve air quality. And it at the end of the day, it actually saves money for households. So as enterprises and consumers save energy, they save money, and they use that money to spend on other things and improving the economy. Okay, so really quickly, there are many of these schemes are already established. The one that's closest to home is the CARICOM, right? So that the CARICOM is the Caribbean community, and they have a regional energy efficiency labeling scheme. There's many other acronyms. It's developed by CROSQ, which is the Regional Organization of Standards and Quality. But all you need to know is that the scheme is based on minimum energy performance standards. And they've got performance standards for light bulbs, refrigerators, and air conditioners. So these they actually take a look at the equipment that are actually available in the Caribbean region, and they set those requirements based on what they see that's entering the Caribbean. So it's more appropriate for the Caribbean, and it is, and it's based on the EU format. You use the categorical labeling. And in the EU, where the CARICOM system is based on, this is required by law. So in the EU, the label has to be applied. Basically, it applies to all the equipment that are the household, typically found in a household, like refrigerators, washing machines, freezers, dishwashers, oven, water heaters, other hot water appliances, lighting, especially, and air conditioning and heat pumps. So all of the EU requirements apply to all of those, and that, as you see, these are categorical. So the labels are, the equipment range from A to F and G, which not really desirable for consumers, since they don't save a lot of energy. There's a quick overview on how these labels can be read, can be used. There's all the requirements are here. There's the supplier's name. It lists the annual energy consumption, the particular model that the labels applies to. and what energy efficiency class this product belong to. There's other categories that depending on what sort of equipment this is. So it's the highest or lowest temperature, or the however the equipment function, the water usage, if there's water usage, other categories, like if it's a refrigerator that's got the capacity of refrigerators in it, and also there's not displayed here, but the Europeans are really, I guess, they're not like Americans. They live in smaller homes, and so they're very concerned with noise. And many European ratings actually has the noise level of the operating equipment, or some noise classification. So if you really want something that's really quiet, look for that in the European label. Many of the European appliances have noise ratings on them. Okay, so moving on,
sorry,
back here. Yeah, was there a question?
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah.
I just wanted to launch a quick poll at this point.
Yeah, okay.
Just to try to get a sense of how people are familiar with the energy labels. So I will launch that right away.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
If everyone could take just a quick second to answer this poll, and then we'll continue.
I will drink some coffee while we wait. It's likely that many of you have seen at least some version of energy labeling, and we'll go through all of them in a few minutes. So there's these funny stickers. That's what they are.
All right, thanks for responding, everyone.
Okay, Mario, do you have your hand up? Do you have a quick question? No, his hand's down. Okay, great. So back here in North America, we have what's called the Energy Guide label, and it's the most commonly used label in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. So all the countries, basically North American countries, have agreed to use this label as part of their appliance regulation. So it is required for all consumer appliances in North America. But unlike the European label, these labels really don't tell you which is the most efficient appliance on the market. So, the consumers have to decide for themselves how to do that. What they actually show is the annual energy consumption, and also the operating costs, which can be tricky because we know that on the mainland, in North America, on the continent, energy is a lot cheaper than here in the Caribbean. It can be 2-3 times, cheaper. So for consumers and for equipment that are imported from North America into the Caribbean, these labels are not as useful as the European ones. Although it does show the annual energy consumption, but not many people actually use it or understand or use it for comparison. But it is a shopping tool, and the more savvy users do pay attention to that. Anyway, so yes, just to quickly on how these labels can be read. There's the maker model number that's usually required, estimated yearly operating costs. Again, that's, as I said, that's in North American energy costs, so it can be a lot more lower than what you will actually see in the Caribbean. Some of them actually carry the Energy Star logo, and we can talk about that in a little bit, but it does indicate energy efficiency. There's the estimated energy consumption, and also it does have some listing of key features. Not as extensive as the European label, but this label actually is in dire need of an update. Unfortunately, with the way things are in North America, we might not see an update for this label. There's been discussion, but we might not see any updates or any changes to this label design for another 4 years. So, again, in North America, there's also the Energy Star label. Many of you have seen this blue star. And it helps consumer identify products that use less energy. That's how the program was started. It is managed by the U.S. EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the U.S. Department of Energy. It does signify, though, that the product that carries the Energy Star label meets specific standards for energy efficiency. So EPA does set some requirements. In some cases, is actually the minimum energy performance standard, or they also have a program that are advanced energy efficiency. So the products are more energy efficient than the rest of them in the market. And here's how to read the Energy Star label. It's a trick slide. There's no need for any tips on how this label is read. You just either the equipment have them or they don't. Very simple. And I think that's the idea. Consumers don't really need to spend a lot of time. If they see the label, they know at least it'll be the minimum. It'll be more energy efficient than those that don't carry the label. There's another label that we see in North America. It's called the WaterSense label. And it is the only eco label right now for water efficient products. And it indicates certain products at the home or it's energy efficient. It's also managed by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and it covered right now toilets, bathroom faucets and accessories, urinals, shower heads, some new homes, and also irrigation system. Actually, this is also useful if you're a builder, but in California, the state of California, again, does things slightly differently than the rest of the U.S., and they do have some labeling requirement for water efficient products. But of course, those products are only available inside California. So. So that's the overall view. Let's talk a little bit specifically about the energy labeling program, because this is more likely that's what you would see when you import products into the Cayman Islands. As I said, the appliance labeling program wants to shift the market towards greater energy efficiency. But so from the consumer's perspective, that's all they see. But it's actually a lot more work on the government side, because it does require some sort of infrastructure to establish the label and to make them work. So there's some other points about appliance labeling that I want to go through. One is labeling has several factors that you pay attention to, and this is mostly for governments and builders rather than retailers. This is just good to know. The range of the product or the scope of the program that are that's addressing these equipment. There's also mandatory or voluntary. This is very important because if the government requires all products to be labeled, then it makes it easier for consumers to compare products across a range. So if you go see if you want to go buy a refrigerator, and only some refrigerators are required to be labeled, then you're not quite sure about the ones that are not labeled. So, and then, there's also the endorsement or comparative. Endorsement means, there's either endorsed by the program, they meet the requirements, or they don't. Or comparative, like the EU, and the EU has more of a, tool for, people who want to take the time, who need to actually look, go and research and compare. So again, it's just an approach, and it's something for governments to consider. And it's for the rest of us, it's just something to be aware of, whether or not when you go shopping, what to use, or when you import products, what products to look for. So
Sorry, me.
Yeah.
Quick, just 1 minute. There was a question in the chat for you.
Okay. I didn't see.
No worries. It was just posted. Would this be enforced at the import level or only at BCU inspection?
Well, I think that's going to be depending on what the government decides to do. I think we'll talk a little bit about that when we go over when we reach Alex's segment, which is about sourcing and importing products. The government might decide to acquire, only the government might decide to do something like what Kristen has just mentioned, which is duty-free, some energy efficient products. So then it's going to be up to you to decide which one qualify, and which one will, and customs also has a role. But we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about sourcing and importing. But going forward, the homeowner infographics and the energy efficient construction guidelines do recommend that the builders, when they build homes and equip homes, to put energy efficient equipment into the homes. So it will be part of the builder's role and responsibility to look for labeled products, or products that are ranked, that meet certain performance requirements to go into the homes. And they do work. You can see here a couple other places in the US. You can see that this chart that I have here, which shows that whenever the energy efficiency standards are established, or put in place, you can see the water and the energy consumption go down, but the price either stays level or they drop. So a lot of people say energy efficient products cost more money, but eventually if we require everyone to be energy efficient, the pricing actually becomes not, they don't become a factor. Let's talk a little bit about what you need to look for in appliances. So let's talk about air conditioners, and we'll have some specific guidelines, and we do have some specific guidelines and recommendations in the guidelines, and Alex talk, he will also give you some real numbers. Now I'm just talking about overall. So air conditioners is, as Stephanie said, and we all know, it is one of the most energy intensive piece of equipment of all of homes on Cayman Islands. it's a given. But what you need to know is that recent advances in energy efficiency, air conditioners are more energy efficient. They have variable speed compressors, so they can operate at different speeds, so they're not running at full power all the time. So they have advanced airflow designs. New fan designs help move air more efficiently, or better distribution. All of these are taken into account by the energy efficient standards that are put in place. So, it's something to be mindful of, that, what you can buy 5 years ago and what you can buy now, there's a big difference in energy performance. One of the things that will be upcoming that will be good for everyone to know, builders and importers and suppliers, is that there is a international agreement to phase out HFCs, hydrofluorocarbons. That's the refrigerants that are in 90% of the air conditioners that are currently operating. Unfortunately, we found that these refrigerants, when they leak, they really affect the climate. They have really strong global warming potential. So as an agreement globally, a lot of countries are moving away from using HFCs to other refrigerants. And you will see that reflected in the equipment that you're buying in the coming years. There's some smart integration that you've all seen that now, smart thermostats, other sensors that can be equipped or equipped or fixed with AC, so that they perform better. So that's another thing to keep in mind or look out for. Okay, so for ACs, you all know that there's an energy efficient rating, and it's called the EER, the energy efficiency ratio, or the seasonal energy efficiency ratio, the SEER. So the new models, the new AAC models, can reach values above 20. And of course, for just a general point, the higher the SEER or the EER, the more energy efficient the piece of equipment is. So, right now, the average that you can probably buy on the island is about 10 or 12, but so you can actually get 16 or 20, which is much better and more efficient, and they also work better because they have some of the other advances that I just talked about. One of the things, again, and that's something else to keep in mind, is that there's a new rating system now. It's called the SEER 2 that was just introduced in 2023. It's new, so it might not be as visible. So it's not something to be concerned with at this point, but just something to keep an eye out for. And so one of the other things that you would want to keep in mind is when you purchase equipment or when you select equipment, to compare like with like. So don't compare EER with SEER. You want to compare EER with EER or SEER with SEER, and more importantly, SEER2 with SEER2. So that's just something that's a quick and dirty reminder, that make sure you don't compare apples and oranges, because then you end up with something that you might not be happy with. So other examples, we have it's like these are actual examples of homes that have been equipped with attic insulation and upgrade ACs. So you can see, there's a great impact from where the insulation was installed, and then when the AC is upgraded, so that a more energy efficient unit is installed, you can see that a significant drop in energy consumption and compared to what was there before. And these are actual homes on Cayman Islands that have been upgraded. And we have, these are the actual data that's been collected by us and in cooperation with the ministry. So it's and you'll see the results of that in a video that we'll be showing later as well. So again, some real life examples. Thanks, Alex, for putting this together. You can see that there's a, definitely right now on Cayman Islands, there's an incremental cost, right? So if you buy, if you change from SEER 13 to SEER 20, there's a significant cost impact, or even SEER 16 to SEER 20, there's a significant cost impact. But you can look at the savings. You save 600 to 900 Cayman Island dollars per year after the upgrade. So the simple payback is only between 4 and 7 years. So it in the AC unit in a home will hopefully last at least 10-15 years. So you're already got the payback, and then after that it actually it's money in the homeowner's pockets. So definitely something worthwhile to consider, and something to explain to home buyers why you choose more energy efficient equipment to put in the homes. Refrigerators, same. The energy efficient refrigerators have dropped about 50% since 1980. Energy Star models, the ones that have the label, they are likely at least 10% more energy efficient than the average units that are available on the market. And some factors about how regulations or how labeling work is that they the governments measure the energy consumption per year for a unit, and they set a limit. So even larger, and this limit, what it does is that there's a maximum energy consumption per year that refrigerators have cannot surpass, and this means that the larger units actually have to be more energy efficient. So in refrigerators, it's set measured in cubic feet, so it's based on the volume of the refrigerator. But as I said, that there's a maximum set limit. So even the larger ones they don't allow larger ones to use more energy. They all have to only a peak to meet.
Excuse me, sir. I think you're muted.
Okay, I don't know how I got myself muted. Sorry about that. Yeah, so you can see that the energy efficiency standards are very effective. You can see the blue line is the volume of refrigerators that are sold in the US. And the red line is the energy consumption per unit. And that has completely gone down to about almost a third since standards have been put in place. And the price of refrigerators have not significantly increased, even with the energy efficiency improved. So you can see that standards do work, and that's why governments use them. Lighting, you all know now that, lighting accounts for 11 to 15% of all electrical energy consumptions in homes. It's about 12% in the US and the EU. And the lifetime of energy costs of running an incandescent lamp can be many more times greater than the purchase price. And here again on the Cayman Islands, you have to think about lighting actually is a source of heat, right? Many incandescents you can't even touch them. So if you have to introduce more heat in the homes through lighting, and then you have to pay again to cool the house, it's actually an added an added factor in added waste in the things that homeowners have to pay for. And the regulations based on the ratio of light output to electrical power input, and now that LEDs are the most energy efficient, and they've come into the market and they're starting to displace everything, which is a good thing. But there's still compact fluorescents and halogens or filament lights. And it's amazing if you can see this chart that LEDs has advanced so quickly since 2000. So it's it's 90% less energy consumption than incandescent bulbs and lasts 25 times longer. So it's definitely a win for the environment that people have adopted LEDs, and part of it is because it's so energy efficient and the price has come down. So. And part of that is, again, thanks to standards that have been established by many governments. So, and again, the example is here, if you had a typical 75-watt incandescent lamp and you operated 5 hours per day, and just roughly at 40 cents per 40 US cents per kWh, how much do you use per year? And just for those we didn't have a poll, but just for those of you who can't do math in your heads, it's actually $54. It's $54.75 per year, and that's just the electricity costs per one light bulb. And if you if you remember, if you operate a bulb for 5 hours per day, that's more than 1,000 hours per year, and most of the incandescent bulbs don't last that long. So you actually have to pay $54 plus the cost of a new bulb. Now, if you switch, you have a 25 watt. Oh, sorry, you have a 25 watt CFL or a 12 watt LED. So this, when I copy and pasted one, I didn't change it. But so you have if you have and the 12 watt LED at 5 hours a day, what do you have? So look at the difference. So incandescent, you have $54 you spend a year. CFL, you spend $18, almost 19, and LEDs you only spend 9, so 6 times less. So when you look at that way, it really is worth the additional cost of the LED. One last thing I want to mention, many of us don't pay attention to another key component that's sucking energy in our homes. I know many homes on Cayman Island have pools, right? And one of the key component of a pool is that you have to have a pool pump. You need to circulate the water. And many pools have more than one pump. And actually, pumps do use a lot of energy. And actually, one of the things about pumps is they actually require to be operated at 2 speeds. One is just to circulate the water for pool cleaning, but actually a pool filtration doesn't, when it's in filtration mode, the pump doesn't need to run as hard. So by reducing the pump speed when you're not cleaning, you can reduce the energy consumption quite a bit. And actually, you also extend the life of the filtering system. So in-ground pools, energy efficient in-ground pools use almost 20% less energy than standard pool pumps. And energy efficient above ground pools use 10% less. So again, the definitely a strong case for choosing energy efficiency. And with that, I will stop and ask for questions. I thank you for your attention, and I rushed through some of the presentation, but hopefully you got the rest of the point that I'm trying to get across. Questions, comments? Again, I put everyone to sleep. Oh, I see, Mario, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, Ketan, I was muted a while ago. So going back to the energy labeling,
Yeah.
What we normally do as a designer and in the consulting side is that we are not only just looking on the energy labeling of the piece of equipment. That is the side of energy saving part. But however, we look also onto the equipment safety marking like NRTL. So that composes everything, that when you select the energy labeling, it's not the only that one part to look, but also on the UL listing part of the equipment. Yeah. So that's only my sharing.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for making that point. Many labeling requirements actually incorporate more than just the energy portion or energy factor of the equipment function. So for example, if you go to Energy Star and you look at what they require for for an LED bulb, for example, it's not just the lumens per watt. They set the lumens per watt, but they also set things that we care about as designers, lighting designers. They set requirements on things, safety, electrical safety, and other performance. Like I know there was a question last week in our presentation about the power factor. So they do have requirements on power factor for some lighting equipment. And going back to a designer, they actually have requirements about light distribution and also light color. So they use the CIE requirement so that light bulbs that claim that they are at 2700K, for example, they need to be within the tolerance, so that people buy something like a warm white or cool white and bring the light bulb home. It shows or for designers who specify things to be at 4000K, and if you get a light source that's actually 4500K or 3200K, whatever, then it completely ruins the effect. So these standards actually take a lot more into consideration than just the energy performance, which is actually very useful. Similarly, other things that we can think about, standards that I can think about other than light bulbs. As I said, for dishwashers, they care about both water performance, right, and noise. So the labeling of energy performance actually has water performance and noise performance on the dishwasher. So again, for designers who choose something to put in their home, that you can be assured that it only performs well because it doesn't use as much energy, but it also minimizes water use and it's quiet. So it's very useful, when they have the regulations in place that they consider more about overall function than just energy performance. Other questions?
Hi, morning, everyone.
Yes, hi.
Yeah, so we're representing Polar Bear Air Conditioning. One of the issues we've been seeing in the field with the high efficiency units, as my colleague had messaged in the group, we find that because of high voltage on the island, the inverters, the circuit boards, stuff like that, they get damaged prematurely. Is anything being put in place to kind of mitigate that, or what are some of the suggestions?
Yeah, no, I think that actually was also brought up last week. I think that's one of the challenges that going forward for the ministry to put this together to to work on the guidelines is feedback like yourself who things are seeing in the field, and there are more robust equipment. It's just that it's something that the ministry will have to start tracking. Right now, the regulations themselves on SEER testing does not have anything. Does not look at the challenges with the high voltage and the inverter function. So definitely, it's something that we have to keep in mind, and it's one of the feedback back to the ministry as higher efficiency equipment are being imported.
Right. And one more question. So
please.
The if we have a high efficiency system, it's basically what we get from it also is dependent on the quality of the ductwork. Now,
yes,
one of the issues we face is convincing customers to upgrade ductwork because everything is basically designed up inside the attic, right, or encapsulated ceiling, right? And it's difficult to tell a customer, hey, you need to pull down your ceiling for us to improve the ductwork, right? So you could install a high efficiency unit, but because of poor ductwork, you're losing 40% of the efficiency,
Yes,
So
absolutely agree. Yeah, no, I think that's the other challenge, with existing homes is that when you put in an energy efficient piece of equipment, you can't fully utilize because, of what is there before. I fully sympathize. I have my house is built in 1941, and when we put in the heating system, it's amazingly efficient, but it won't, it barely gets the warm air upstairs. So upstairs, we still have to supplement with some other, form of heating. So there are limits to what you as a contractor can do, especially with existing homes. For new homes, like we had the presentation last week. For new homes, it's a much better, way to go. You can put in the right ductwork. You can care about ventilation. You want to make sure that there's sufficient air changes. For older homes, it's a matter of trade-off. What you can put in place versus what the owner has tolerance for. So it definitely is a challenge, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we cover the other section, which is how to speak to your customers about energy efficiency. but I understand there are limits. Just because you put in a 20 SEER unit, you're not going to cut your energy consumption in half and see amazing cooling power just because it's 20 SEER.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Should we take a break and then before we launch into the other section?
Yep, I think that sounds good. Maybe we could
Thanks.
break for
Yeah.
for 5 minutes until 10:10.
Okay. Great. Thank you everyone for your attention. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, it hasn't grown, but I'm sure that you can get that when you work with something. You can get the radius. You want to provide the radius for each of that, and then you can take the exact same CAD drawing into your this is from Aqua Design drawing. So this is from a design drawing. But the double line is the make sure if it needs to be double on all these, and then you can move for one line structural. You finish really fast. Yes. But they people detail giving you the right learning. Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. As we wait for everyone to get back, I will launch the last poll for today's session, which will be relevant for not this upcoming segment, but the one after. So essentially, we were just curious to know how many of you, as part of your work or otherwise, get to engage with customers or the general public at large. On the benefits of energy efficiency, whether it's about AC efficiency or appliances or building envelope. So there it is. Okay, we're getting some feedback. Looks like most of you selected often or every chance I get. So most of you are seem to be champions of energy efficiency on island, which is great. Which is you know, you're the best people for that. You're in touch with the market. You're in touch with the people. People generally, you know, trust people from an industry, and so that's good to see. We'll get back to customer education and engagement just in the last segment. But for now, a quick segment on sourcing and selecting energy efficient appliances and equipment. All right. This is just for context. All of you are, of course, very familiar with these notions, but the Cayman Islands rely almost exclusively on imported construction materials and appliances. My understanding is most of those items are sourced from the southern US, and the reliance on importations can lead to construction delays and other issues, maybe limited options and so on. Currently, the government has been promoting energy efficiency, namely through its national energy policy, of which energy efficiency is a key objective, and includes several measures to promote energy efficiency, including duty waivers on several energy efficient appliances and building materials such as insulation. In terms of established regulations for imports, again, this is just for context. We recommend that everybody just get super familiar with the legislation to ensure compliance, follow and get familiar with the CBC requirements and procedures. In terms of trying to get more energy efficient appliances and equipment on island as much as possible within constraints that exist, trying to identify and work with suppliers and distributors who are familiar with energy efficiency equipment and appliances, find those potential suppliers that have knowledge of energy efficiency metrics, can speak to them, know about energy efficiency standards and labeling and MEPS, the mandatory energy performance standards that are, well, they don't exist in Cayman yet, but they exist in some other countries where these suppliers export. So try and engage with suppliers who have this knowledge and will make it easier for you to find energy efficient appliances and products to supply to your customers. It's important to always, as much as possible, I know time is scarce, and but try to stay up to date on trends and developments regarding energy efficiency equipment and appliances. Could attend some workshops and conferences, engage with other stakeholders in the industry. Of course, I'm saying this to people who have attended this webinar, and most of you have attended the previous one as well. So you're already part of, these people who try to stay up to date. But the goal here is just to reinforce the fact that you people are the ones who will really help push energy efficiency in the residential sector. And so your implication is super important. In terms of challenges and barriers that you can face when trying to source energy efficiency products, so it can be difficult to find the right products, those that meet the performance and documentation requirements, especially at competitive price points. But like I said, it's important to shop around, try to find those suppliers, and especially address the demand side of economics of this issue, which is educating the customers about energy efficiency to generate that demand, so that people will request and see the value of higher efficiency products. And we will talk a bit more about public education in just a moment. For now, I will launch. Oh no, sorry, I did launch that survey. Sorry, and the reason I wanted to know about how much you engage with customers is regarding that next segment on communicating and educating customers on energy efficiency. Informed users are more likely to seek out energy efficiency equipment. And one thing I wanted to add at this point is, so I had the chance to spend some time in Cayman to speak to a bunch of people from the industry, both on the ground, designers, builders, suppliers, as well as people on the policy side, various government agencies. So I got a good picture of what can be improved in terms of energy efficiency in the residential sector. So all of this feedback was, of course, very useful in coming up with the guidelines that we produced with the ministry. But also one key finding that really was mentioned by most people we engaged with was that public education was one front that needed important work. And another thing was that there should be a unified message among industry stakeholders towards the general public. And Of course, it's there was some debate last week on some specific energy efficiency measures. There can be some debate, some disagreement about exactly what the best measures are for a given case, and that's fine. It depends on people's experiences and priorities. But I think we all can agree that in general, energy efficiency is something that should be promoted and people should be educated on. And so that's why we wanted to have a segment on this to really emphasize that this is something that will help drive the transition towards more energy efficient residential sector. Of course, the government has the leading role in all of this through policy and coming up with these guidelines and the homeowner infographics that my colleague Stephanie shared earlier. But all stakeholders can play their part. You are on the ground and you can contribute to education. And the success of any transition relies as well on people like you. So of course, maintaining increasing awareness of the importance of energy efficiency, introduce these concepts to customers, and especially educate them on the benefits. In general, it's definitely likely that most people have developed a good sense of the benefits of energy efficiency in general, and they are probably fairly aware of the general benefits, but they're not necessarily aware of the options that can lead to those benefits for them. So that's where there's a gap, is often teaching people that these benefits can be achieved with some options that exist and that are not necessarily too expensive. And if they come with a higher price point, this money can be recuperated within a few years. The next few slides come from Franklin Energy. So they came up with a series of tips and approaches for people to educate customers on energy efficiency. And of course, you people are the experts on the Cayman market. You know what customers want, what they know about, and so the goal here is to not pretend that this is an approach that will work necessarily for everyone, but these might be useful tips and just general different approaches for you to incorporate. So I'll let you look at this for a moment. So the quote says, "Nobody who bought a drill wanted a drill; they wanted a hole." So the point here is to really emphasize the fact that we have to educate the customers on the benefits of energy efficiency, not just the features. So we have to take the time to tell them, to understand their point of view, teach them about how this option, better insulation, for instance, or better AC, will make their lives better. Trying to understand their pain points, make the discussion about them, to see their perspective, and trying to address the issues in ways that they will understand. So again, here the key is to really make the connection between the features such as SEER level, R value, and the benefits: energy savings, cost savings, comfort levels. Give you a few moments to look at this graphic a little bit. In this slide here, we're trying to make the point that there is a cost to doing nothing. So yes, you can highlight the benefits, the cost savings, the return on investment, the payback period of a given energy efficient appliance or equipment. And again, just trying to put that in terms that people will understand, that will make it a bit more concrete for them to see the benefits, you could address that in terms of costs of doing nothing. This slide here is just to show that, again, you are the energy efficiency champions. You're the ones who can really help push this transition. And so accompanying customers along their energy efficiency journey is also like a key step in completing a larger scale shift in industry and in society. So eventually, when we reach the last step on this timeline here, the paradigm shift, what we mean is just essentially making energy efficiency the standard. And of course, again, this will require some policy updates, but you can definitely play a role, again, through education in driving that demand for energy efficiency and that awareness. Again, we don't pretend to be experts on selling, but just a note on keeping in mind, again, the relationship you have with customers is a unique one, and maintaining trust is helpful to try and educate them on energy efficiency. And for this last little section here, this is mostly for information, and we recommend that you take some time afterwards to look at these consumer engagement strategies that were developed by Energy Star. There's an online platform where you could go get trainings and guides and just general tips, marketing materials, training modules, and case studies. So this is just for your information so that you know it exists, and we recommend that you go take a quick look at it when you have a chance. And that is it for the more formal training part of this session. The remainder will be dedicated to discussion and questions. So thank you for your attention, and looking forward to hearing your questions. Would anyone have any comments or maybe questions, maybe not questions, but comments or experiences to share about customer engagement and education? Is that something that you find difficult? Do you see a lot of resistance when you're trying to sell energy efficient options? Someone like to share on that? All right. Me, are you there?
Yeah. I wanted to add a couple of things. One of the things, at least for us, is for us as energy efficiency expert, is that we are so used to talking about technology and things like inverters and but we really have need to be able to speak down a level, and not down meaning in a derogatory way, but down meaning that we need to get to the right level of communication. We talk, and I think that's definitely a challenge for many of us that work more with technology than customers. And so hopefully, we have some of this material that we presented today, and some of it we found for us useful, and we'll post that. So hopefully you'll be able to use it as well. But, many of you who work directly with customers. So I'm sure your experience are much more wide, varied, and deeper than ours. And hopefully some of that you can share. And the other point I also wanted to bring up is that we, in terms of knowing about the supplier and the distribution chain on Cayman Islands, or knowledge is pretty limited. You are the ones who have to work through the supply chain. So I don't know if that's trade secret and you have your secret, phone number that you can call. But if you have experience, working and sourcing, if and challenge in bringing in products, it would be great to share your experience, and we would definitely appreciate hearing what you have to say. Wow, Alex, it's not just me. You're putting them to sleep too. This is a really quiet group today. So I think it's one final thing, since I don't, nobody said have much questions. One of the challenges that we do have is having the right materials. And we mentioned before, here in the US and Canada, but, many of the retailers that carry, that are, product dealers, they sell in such large volume that they get services, free services from the manufacturers. Maytag or Whirlpool or what have you, or GE would come to your store and help display, or they work out some sort of promotional event, all of that. And I think that's one of the challenge on Cayman, is that you don't sell enough to receive that sort of attention directly from suppliers. And I wonder if there's any services that you actually have gotten from the manufacturers like Whirlpool, like GE, that other larger dealers receive on the mainland.
Just to jump in there, you make a really good point. So like when my washing machine went down the other day, my first instinct, run to A.L. Thompson, just get the cheapest brand, because those energy labels don't mean anything to me. And I reached out to A.L. Thompson before about, can you do a special energy efficiency section, but it wasn't really taken up. But it's good. I do wonder if we could do something with the brands. We have Whirlpool and GE, and see if they could, do something to make them, when we do pop for those emergencies, we just want to grab something quick, whatever's on the shop floor, what is the best one to grab? I don't know if there are any suppliers on here that, how do you market your equipment? But it's good, like for a consumer like me, I'm just grabbing whatever's there.
Thanks, Kristen. Maybe to hop on what Rohan mentioned and what Stephanie then asked about. So Rohan, you mentioned that it would be good if there were incentive programs. Would you have examples or ideas of what kind of incentives would be most useful? And in general, I would open the question to everyone else. Do you have any other suggestions, maybe, or ideas on the incentive programs or other ways that energy efficiency would be kind of easier for you to sell in your work?
That's fine. I mean, send it in the chat or just let us know later if everybody's thinking about, what kind of incentive programs can we do? We do have duty-free items at the moment, but please do share with us if you come up with other ideas that you think your customers would go for and that you could easily push. So definitely contact us. Yep. Yes, that's the issue. We don't know if they're passing on the cost, but that is the first thing that we do.
So Kristen, is there somewhere on the government website that would list what products are duty free? Is that just a general knowledge, or is that actually the announcement is made somewhere? So I think that might be useful as well for folks to know about.
So our website, gov.ky/energy, does have the list that customs waive duty on. So it's all those items I listed earlier, plus bicycles and electric vehicles. We're hoping to grow the list for sure. But yes, so that's on there. And if you do go to purchase items and they say, no, it's not duty free, please let me know so I can let customs know, hey, we have an issue, but it should still be duty free.
Right. So it would be useful for retailers to let people know that the items are listed on your website, so that then they know who's passing on the savings.
Yeah. So even in these election debates, we've heard candidates say things need to be duty free. It's like they already are duty free. So I guess we just got to push that message some more. And we will. All right. Yeah, so once again, educating customers, looking at that comment about the propane, the higher upfront cost. So yes, educating customer about the long run, you'll be saving. Absolutely. Excellent. So this is what this was about. So thank you for all these comments. And it's great to see, we have that range of knowledge from, people are very versed in energy efficiency and some who are just learning. And we hope we pass this message on and share this presentation with your colleagues so that we can get the word out. All right. Is there anything else? All right. I think we could wrap it up.
Quick question, Kristen. So you said on the website, there's on the energy portion of the government website, there's a list of these items?
I hope so. Let me check. So under resources, publications, and duty, let's see, legislation. Maybe we should make it more user-friendly. Let's see, custom tariffs amendment order. So we actually put the app so that people could see, well, this is the actual tariff number when they go, they have that reference there.
Okay, I just shared the direct link to the where you can find the document, the customs tariff document. So it's in the chat, everyone.
Thank you. Yep, so reference those tariffs when you go for your duty waiver.
Oh, we have a hand up.
Mhm.
Morning again, guys. I'm from Polar Bear. So we, Miss Smith, you spoke about duty-free waivers, well, duty-free products to be imported. It would be a good idea to make air conditioning units duty-free.
Mhm.
It's a large part of the energy consumption.
Mhm.
I'm a bit biased because I'm in the business. That would be great for business, but
Yeah.
also you will see a tremendous reduction in energy consumption on the island if
Mhm.
this is implemented. Um, yeah, that's just my take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been in discussions to look at waiving anything with a SEER rating over 16 to try and discourage people from buying the lower energy efficient units. There's the issue with customs and how would they know what's coming in and how to quickly identify that tariff. So that's the discussions we've kind of been in for a while, but that's absolutely on our list. So after election, we'll be pushing that again.
All right. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much. All right.
All right. Well, I guess that would be it.
Kristen and team,
Mhm.
I just wanted to say thank you for your presentation. I think it's very useful. I'm sitting here trying to think how best we can get this information, and I know you have shared the link, but to others as well that were not included in the 44 or the previous that attended. It's useful, but I think once you have finalized with the comments, it would be useful for them to make it even a bigger push, because ultimately what all of this is to help our people. So we need to get it to the common folks out there as well, so that they can be educated to ask their service provider on, and further educate themselves. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate and working with you and your team on this as well.
Thank you so much. Just for everybody's knowledge, this is Ms. Leda Nicholson Makasari from the Ministry of Planning, who her team has been very helpful with getting these energy efficiency guidelines done. Working, their ministry is responsible for planning, agriculture, housing, infrastructure, transport, and development. So it's been wonderful working with them. So thank you. All right. Thank you so much, team. Thank you to Econolair for delivering this training session. We will, once the video is available, we will send it out to you in case you want to listen to it again and missed any parts. And we'll update the guidelines for any comments that we received over the last 2 sessions, and we will be sending that out as well. So thank you so much for attending today. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a nice day.
Cheers.